and welcome to today's Bobsters Podblast. And I've got, well, another very, very talented human being here, the lovely, beautiful Judy Buxton. Nice to have you on, Judy.
Great to be here, Bobby. Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely not a problem. It's just so good to have you on, because obviously, like I met you and Jeff a few years back in the festival, and it was just great seeing Jeff's show, and and it was great talking to Jeff earlier about the things he's been doing over the years. But I'm looking forward to hearing about your story, especially from your early beginnings. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to it. So I mean, you went to drama school, Judy?
I did. I went to Rose Bruford, which was a drama school in Sidcup in Kent. And I was there for 3 years. It actually was a drama school that also did a teaching course. You had to get your teaching diploma afterwards. Or my mother and father wanted me to do that because they thought it was good to have something to fall back on should one sort of fall on difficult times. I have to say, I've never actually used my teaching diploma, but I was very grateful for getting it. And I had 3 happy years there. Loved it.
And just for your teaching diploma, did you ever, from when you were a young age, did you always want to be an actor or a teacher, or
Yes, I did. What actually happened was my mother shoved me off to nursery school at the age, I think I was about 2 3/4. Perhaps I was a naughty child and she couldn't stand me anymore at home. But anyway, I went off to nursery school, which was just very local to where we lived in Surrey. And the lady that ran the school was German. And she had a very, very strong accent. Her name was Miss Ritz. And so all the children, to prevent them picking up the accent as kids do, they're very sort of, able to do that sort of thing quickly. And so she employed a elocution teacher. In those days, it was called elocution. And so we used to do lots of poems and performances in the school at this very young age. And I think I must have shown some sort of it took some sort of shine to it and continued that way. And then when I left there and went to ordinary school, my mother took me to a drama class, which I attended every single Saturday afternoon, and did loads of things like festivals, local festivals, and exams. And I won lots of medals for it. We used to do sort of poetry and improvisations and duologues and things like that. And so my Saturdays were always going off to this drama class. And so from a very early age, I knew that when I left school, I wanted to go to drama school and become an actress. And I didn't really want to do anything else. And it happened. I got into a few of them, but I chose Rose Bruford because, as I said, they did the course for teaching, and my parents thought that was a good idea. So that's basically really how it happened. I gave up I got to about the age of about 15, and all my friends were going out having a good time on Saturdays, going shopping and all that. And I would have to go off and do my drama class. But I'm very glad I did in the end. So, good sort of grounding, really.
Very good. Did you go to drama class? Did you have any other well-known people attending with you?
Not at that particular class, no. I think everybody else went on to do other things, but I think I was the only one out of that actually went on to become an actress, or actor, as they say now. But I still.
Brilliant. So, so years ago, obviously theatre is part and parcel of obviously being in drama school, and so forth. But obviously you had a good start on TV. I spoke to Jeff earlier, and he was on Dixon the Dock Green, but so were you.
I know, isn't that extraordinary? That was my very first television after I'd done rep. I did I got my equity card from going to Chesterfield Rep. It was then called the Chesterfield Civic Theatre. I think it's called the Pomegranate now. And I did my 9 months there, actually with Lewis Collins.
Lewis
the late-
Collins.
Yeah, he and I were literally acting ASMs there together. But once I'd finished there, I got my first television, and it was Dixon of Dock Green, which was really exciting because, you know, I grew up, I watched that as a kid, you know, watching Jack Warner and everything. And it was the first time I'd ever done any television, because when we were at drama school, we didn't have television courses. I know they do now, film and television courses. It wasn't, it was all theatre and voice and all the rest of it, and a bit of radio, but no grounding in television. And so I was quite nervous about it. And I do not remember what I played, what the character was, what the name of the character was. All I can remember is Paddy O'Connell, who was in The Brothers. Do you remember that scene? No, you're probably too young. The Brothers, with Kate O'Mara and people like that. Paddy O'Connell played my dad in it. And all I can remember is Jack Warner being a wonderful gentleman. He used to look absolutely dapper every day with a beautiful carnation in his buttonhole, and he gave me a signed autograph of himself, which I have to this day.
Wow.
All I can remember. But the weird thing is, we filmed really near where I live, which is a park in West London. And you know, I was staying with my parents at the time, and suddenly I realised that that was the park that we filmed in, because it's not far from the BBC, the old BBC. So yes, that was the first television. And the rest, I then went on to audition for General Hospital, which was the next big thing for me, because I did that for a year as one of the nurses, with lovely late great Linda Bellingham.
Oh, she was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You know what's really, that's what I'm saying. Well, you know what's, well, I wouldn't say funny, but what's really weird is, I think it was just before she passed. It wasn't long since I actually saw her in Edinburgh. She was eating out at some, like, there's this French restaurant I used to pass, and it was definitely her. And she was in there, like, in this restaurant in Grassmarket of Edinburgh. I think she was there with her partner or husband or something. And I thought and I thought to myself, that's Linda Bellingham, but her hair was kind of greyer.
Yeah, right. Yes.
But it was definitely her. And then it wasn't. It was about maybe a year or two after that the sad thing that happened with her, you know. But she was a fantastic actress, wasn't she? She was wonderful.
Absolutely wonderful. And she could do everything, you know. She was a good singer, I believe, as well. I'll never forget a story. Well, we did General Hospital at ATV history. And of course, in those days, in some of the studios, big studios, they used to have a lot of great big shows. Like they had Barbara Streisand, and they had a lot of musical shows. And one day, Sammy Davis Jr. was going to be on. Wow. And Linda and I were in our nurse's uniform, and we got to lunchtime, and she said, come on, let's go over and see if we can see Sammy Davis, you see. So we sort of crept into the studio. And he was there, and she was very bold. She was, you know, very bold. I was sort of standing in the background, keeping up, nervous. And she was very bold, and she said, Sammy, she said, I've always wanted to scat with you. And he said, well, come on then, come on. And she was sort of doing all this, oh, this was hilarious. And I thought, oh my God, she's so amazing, you know. And so that was the day we both met Sammy Davis Jr., and I'll never forget that. It was amazing. Brilliant. So we had fun. We had great fun.
Brilliant.
We used to have proper nursing sisters sort of telling us, you know, that we were doing everything right. You know, they were employed to come on the studio days to just make sure everything was right. And they used to be incredibly cross with us. I think they thought, once we were in our uniforms, they thought we were real nurses. And so, you know, we used to get ticked off if our hospital corners weren't right. Oh my God. I learned quite a lot doing that show. Yeah, so we were both in it for about a year, and then obviously Linda went off and did lots of other wonderful things, and we parted company. So I didn't really keep up with her after that a lot.
Did you keep in touch with one another? Like through
No, we
phone?
didn't.
No?
Not really. I mean, I saw her a few times, you know, over the years where we might be at the same sort of do or something, but we didn't actually, you know, we didn't sort of keep in touch like great friends or anything like that. Although she was bad, you know, I loved her.
And like, so, I mean, going back to like when you started General Hospital, even Dixon of Dot Green, I mean, do you still remember back then, like being your first TV job, how excited you were about doing it?
I know, and nervous, really nervous. But I think doing the twice, because General Hospital was twice weekly. And so one got into a rhythm of things and it became a lot easier. But that first one, that Dixon of Dot Green, I remember I was incredibly nervous. But with the General Hospital, I think it was the people that were coming in guesting, they were probably more nervous. I think that happens in all shows, that, you know, if you're a guest in something that's been long running, that's quite nerve-wracking, meeting everybody. But June Brown came in to be a patient, and then she, of course, went on to play Dot Cotton, and we had some wonderful people. Even I can remember Bernard Lee, who played M in the Bond films. I remember he was a patient. I remember I had to, as nurse Katie Shaw, I used to have to take him off to the toilet. Yes, so met some fabulous people.
It's funny because talking to Bernard Lee, I mean, I remember when I was just a little boy, all I ever heard when James Bond came on, especially if it was Sean Connery, all I would hear from my mum and dad were, he just lived up the road from here, and you know, blah blah blah. Sean Connery was from Edinburgh, and blah 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 blah. Every time Sean Connery was, that's all we get. Or if I went up the town, you know, Sean Connery just used to stay up the little close there, and he was a milkman in this street and so forth. I'm like, oh dear, all right, okay. But yeah, but I tell you what though, it's like, I mean, going to the shows of the 70s, Judy, you know, I mean, obviously you appeared on the Sweeney and Get Some In. I mean, the Sweeney, that must have been brilliant to work on with John Thaw and Dennis Waterman.
Well, to be honest with you, yes, it was great, but I had a very small part. And so it was literally only a morning's work. And it was in Notting Hill. We did it in a toy shop. So it was just a spit and a cough, really. But I knew Dennis. I'd met Dennis over the years. It was great to do the scene with him. Yes, it wasn't, as I say, it wasn't a leading role by any means. But Get Some In was fun. That was good fun. Working with, that was with Robert Lindsay. I played, enough, you know, after doing General Hospital, I got a lot of nurses parts offered me. And I had to be a bit careful about not, you know, keep playing nurses, but I was actually a nurse in Get Some In. But of course, it was a comedy. It wasn't, it was quite fun.
You know what? I think Get Some In is one of those underrated comedies. You know, especially when you watch it, because I mean, you've seen some of the stars in it. You had Robert Lindsay, you had even Brian Pettifer, Scottish actor, was in it.
Yes, Brian, and David Jansen. Yes, and then of course, dear Tony Selby, who's recently left us.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a good show, a really good show, and it doesn't get repeated very much, I don't think. Probably on, you know, Gold or something sometimes, but
Robert Lindsay, he's fantastic, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, marvelous.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But listen, one thing that really sticks out with you, Judy, is Rising Damp, sitting on that sandwich. Leonard Rossiter walking in, that is priceless, honestly.
Crumpet, anyone? He said he came with it. It was funny, wasn't it?
You know, it's like, it was funny. Sorry, Judy, what you're saying.
No, I think that series just doesn't It doesn't date or anything, does it? It's still very, very funny. Funnily enough, the first one I did was an episode called Clunk Click, which was when Rigsby takes Miss Jones to the local golf club dance.
Mm-hmm.
And she's borrowed her Aunt Ada's fur stole.
Mm-hmm.
And Rigsby borrows Alan's sports car to take her. And that was the first one I did. And I was playing the character Caroline Armitage. And it was a fairly small part, just a couple of little scenes with Richard. And when I went to film it, we rehearsed here in London, and then we'd go up to Leeds, to Yorkshire Television, to record it. And Leonard said to me, he said, I've been looking at the scripts for the next few episodes. And in about 2 weeks' time, Richard's character's got another girlfriend. And he said, I think that's wrong. I think it should be you. I think, you've done this and you're still his girlfriend. And there's no reason why you shouldn't do it. He said, I'll have a word. And he had a word with the director, which was Ronnie Baxter, and said, I think Judy could do this. Well, I was thrilled, of course. And that's how it happened. That's how I got the cocktail hour with the jam butty on my and that's how it happened. So I must have done something right, because Leonard was quite, I don't know, it was quite nerve-wracking to work with him. I mean, I got on with him incredibly well, but he didn't suffer fools gladly. And I think if he didn't like you or didn't think you were capable of what you were doing, then I think you were out. Mm-hmm. I'd heard stories that a lot of people who'd had parts, suddenly they after the read-through, that they were never seen again. Mm-hmm. So I thought, oh, to be offered another episode, I was incredibly lucky. And so I must have done something right. Absolutely. But it was fun. It was fun.
And it's like, I mean, to work with legends like Richard Beckinsale, and because I mean, I regard these guys as legends, and especially, I mean, it's like Leonard Rossiter, to me, great actor, but a great comedy actor as well. And I mean, it's like Ronnie Barker. I mean, I love Ronnie Barker as well, but it must have been such a thrill for you to like be working with those guys.
Well, it was amazing. It really was. And to watch Leonard rehearsing was extraordinary. And just he'd go over and over, just the tiniest little movement. Mm-hmm. Any little gesture was worked out to the nth degree, and it was fascinating watching him. I mean, he was a perfectionist.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Could be a bit scary, but no, definitely he was fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, to me, he seemed a little bit manic. He seemed like really hyperactive.
Yes.
Is that what he was like?
Yeah. Yes, he did come over as that. Yes, whereas Richard was sort of very laid back, and he was lovely, and I was just devastated when I heard what had happened to him. It was so young. I mean, he was about 31. Just unbelievable.
Yeah. And Richard Beckinsale. I mean, I heard these stories that he was doing Rise and Damp at the same time as he was doing Porridge, but he wore a wig or something, didn't he? He wore like a wig, like so longer hair.
He did. I think he was doing, actually, when I was doing Rising Damp with him, I think he was in a play with Paula Wilcox in London and in the West End. Mm-hmm. So he was working really hard. So he'd be rehearsing in the daytime and doing the play at night. So yes, which is tough,
Oh God, especially for the brain, eh? It's like trying to memorize all those different lines as well. Yeah, crazy. Eh?
Yeah, I never know how the weekly rep, in the old days when they used to do a different play every week. I mean, I did every 2 weeks when I was at Chesterfield, and that was bad enough. But every week, my goodness, that's tough.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. That is hard going, because obviously when you do theatre, I mean, it's like having to learn lines in a short space of time for one show, but for to do two different things. That's, you know.
Wow. And we don't know how lucky we are now, I don't think. In those days it was.
I mean, it's mental, absolutely mental. But I mean, obviously, you've appeared on all these great shows in the 70s and stuff. But I mean, you did some film work as well, didn't you, Jude? I mean, you were in, obviously, you had the Likely Lads feature film.
Yeah, again, not a huge role. It was just, a little cameo, as they call them. But that was quite funny because I played a character called Iris who worked in a boutique.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was only a day's work. I think in those days we got about 50 quid for it,
50 quid.
Which I suppose in those days it was quite good. But I can remember, I think we did it at Pinewood, I think so. Getting to the studio at the crack of dawn, getting your makeup on and your costume, taken down to the set and then introduced to Jimmy Bolam. Jimmy, James Bolam, this is Judy Buxton, James Bolam. Hello, how do you do? Nice to meet you. And then suddenly we start the scene and we're snogging each other. You've only just met, this was in the script, obviously. And I thought, what a funny old life, I've just met this man. And there we are kissing. And we had to laugh about it. It was hilarious. But that's what happens in showbiz.
Oh, fantastic,
Yeah.
But,
The Big Sleep was, you mentioned, and that was a strange experience with Mr. Winner.
Yeah.
I had one line in that, which I can quote. Mr. Mars, there's a Mr. Marlowe to see you. That was it. Reception. Michael Winner made this huge thing about me helping him promote the film when it finished. And he wanted me to go to South Africa to promote the film. And I thought, what? I've got one line. And I thought, no, thank you very much. Well, actually, luckily, I was working at the time. I was doing a play at Windsor Theatre. And so I wasn't lying. And my agent said, I'm sorry, Judy can't do this. She's actually working. Never thought any more of it. And then a few years later, he was doing a remake of, I think it was The Wicked Lady, with Margaret Lockwood had made years ago, and he was doing a remake of it. And I went to audition for it, or went to see him for it. And suddenly he said, I thought it was disgusting of you not to have been done the publicity for my film. He said, it will cost you very dearly in your film career, my dear. And I sat there and I said, excuse me, Michael. I said, I was actually working at the time. I couldn't come. And I joked about it. And he said, what have you been doing recently? So I said, I've actually just played Juliet at the Royal Shakespeare Company. Oh, God. So that I won't say anymore, but that's my experience.
Right. But he must have, I'm glad you kind of put him in his place there. What was he like, though? Was he...
Well, I mean, I'm not my favourite person. But there we go. I won't say anymore.
Not a problem. Yeah. But I mean, obviously, you mentioned the Royal Shakespeare Company. That must have been something. That must have been something else working with them. You must have enjoyed that.
I was there for getting on 3 years, and started off with actually John Barton's The Greeks. That's how it all happened. And I had an audition, which it was at very short notice to go and do a speech. And I knew it was the Greeks, so I got to the library and I got Antigone out and I learned a bit of that. And I think I had to do another modern bit or something. Anyway, and it was to see John Barton. And I went to the rehearsal room and I went in and I started my piece, finished it. And he said to me, have you just learnt that? And I said, well, yes, because I only heard about the audition 2 days ago. So yes, I have only just learnt that. I said, why? Was it that bad? And he laughed and he said, no, 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 no. He said, I'd just like you to do something that you really, really know. And of course, your brain goes, you know, I thought, oh my God, what do I know? What do I know? Anyway, I'd just done a television, which was Woodhouse Playhouse with John Alderton, playing this frankly sort of smart, posh character called Lady Millicent Shipton Bellon. And so I did a little speech about, I said, I've just done this, so I can just do a little bit of that for you. And then he said, thank you very much. And then he said, is there anything else you really, really know? And then the only thing I could think of was a poem by John Betjeman called Fun and Sun, which was the song of a nightclub proprietress. So I did the whole poem for him. It's a great poem. And then he said, right, he said, now can you do it again for me, drunk? So I thought, right, okay. So that, yes. Now can you do it again, something, something else? Yes, okay. And then he said, do you dance? Well, I'm not a trained dancer, but I've done a bit of dancing at drama school and stuff. I like dancing. He said, dance for me. So there I was, flitting across the floor in this rehearsal room and flitting back again. Anyway, by this time, I'd been in there for about an hour. And then he said to me, I'd like you to go home and learn this script and come back and see me next week. And the script was mammoth. It was a whole speech of Iphigenia from the Greeks. So I went home, I learned it, came back the next week. I did it for him. Then he started directing me in it and that, this, that, and the other. Then he gave me another speech. He said, now I want you to go home and learn this, and I'll see you next week. This went on. And anyway, to cut a long story short, I went back, did the speech. I then had to meet Gillian Lynn, who was going to do the choreography for it, but in the end she didn't. We had another lady. And at the end of all that, he came up I was on the Aldwych stage by this time doing my last audition. And he came up and he said, I'd really like to offer you Iphigenia. And I went, oh, thank you very much. That's wonderful. And I was so exhausted after all these auditions. And then he rang me. He must have got my number from my agent. He rang me at home and he said, I'm really sorry to have put you through all this, but I just wanted to see if you could take direction. And that was it. So I got that. And then from there, they offered me Juliet. From having done the Greeks, they offered me Juliet opposite Anton Lesser and the wonderful Brenda Bruce playing the nurse. So that I did that. And then I also did, I played Jessica to David Suchet's Shylock. It was again wonderful. So I had a lovely 3 years there, absolutely fabulous. And loved John Barton to bits. And he then gave me, once I'd left there, he then gave me Lady Teazle opposite Donald Sinden at the Haymarket. So I played that in the West End in the Haymarket. Brilliant. So yeah, happy days, happy days.
But it's like, I mean, obviously you've did television, but you really, really love theatre, don't you, Judy? You really love theatre.
I do. It was what I was trained in. And, as I say, I love an audience. And although having done a lot of the, the classics at the RSC, I then went on to do a lot of comedy with Ray Cooney. And in fact, worked a lot with Jeff on Ray Cooney. He's a great mate of ours, and he's now 89, and he's a wonderful man. And so we've done lots of his farces together.
Is it Run for Your Wife? That was one of them, wasn't it?
Run for Your Wife. Now, Jeff was in and out of Run for Your Wife, but way before I knew him, for about 9 years, in and out. He played John Smith, sort of the leading guy in it. And I got to do Run for Your Wife, I think it was around about 1989, something like 88, 89, I think it was, in the West End, playing Mary. And then we went on to do it, once Jeff and I got together, we played it with Ray on a cruise ship. We went to Australia and performed on the ship in Run for Your Wife. And then we also went to Israel with it. And funnily enough, 2019, just before all the lockdowns and everything, just before Christmas, Ray asked us to do Run for Your Wife again at Sonning, the Mill at Sonning, which is a lovely theatre, dinner theatre. And we said, Ray, we can't do Run for Your Wife. We're far too old. I said, you know, we did it years ago. It was fine, but we're far too old for that. No. He said, no. He said, I'm going to up all the ages and it'll work. Well, it did work because it's a funny play. It really did work. But we called it the geriatric version. I don't think we'll ever play it again. But and funnily enough, I played the part of Barbara. There are two wives, and married to the one taxi driver, which was originally Jeff's part, but in this he was playing a friend. And I played Mary, always played Mary, but this time I was playing Barbara, and it was so difficult because I kept hearing Mary's lines in my head because I'd done it so many times. But anyway, we got through it, and it was a huge success, and wonderful to work with the master of farce, Mr. Cooney. He's just a legend. He's a legend.
Big time.
Yeah,
big time. But you know, it's great hearing that. I would have liked to have really. I would have loved to have saw that.
Yeah, good fun.
Especially the geriatric version. You know, that would have been good.
Very special, very special. But all his plays are wonderful. You know, and they're not easy to do. You know, you've got the timing, and you know, it's he directs absolutely to the letter. You know, it's people think farces are easy, but they're not. They're one of the hardest things to do. But the most enjoyable because of the feedback, the laughter, you know, to hear the audience laughing is fabulous.
Brilliant. It's funny because years ago I did a wedding farce. It was called Come Now to Be Joined. And I played the part of the bride's brother who was going to be up the groom and it was just such a funny show. It's just one thing led to another, and then the priest was the vicar guy was just manic, and it was so funny. It was just a short play though, but it was just so fun to do, you know, and you know, knowing that was a farce as well, and to be in it, which was great and funny, and it would have been lovely to have seen Run for Your Wife. That would have been absolutely
good fun. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, but I mean, you did lots of, like, from theatre to TV. I mean, you went to do, like, so obviously you went and done Bergerac, you done Lovejoy, but then you went to work with Dennis Waterman on The Up. How did that feel working with Dennis again?
Well, it was great. I mean, that was a very strange sort of coincidence of getting the job, because I'd been invited to go back to my old drama school, Rose Bruford, by a girlfriend. They were having a sort of reunion, and I didn't really want to go. And she said, oh, come on, Judy, let's go. If we don't like it, we can leave. So I went, and I bumped into Gareth Gwenlyn, who was head of comedy at BBC, and I'd actually done that Woodhouse Playhouse that I mentioned earlier with him several years before. And he said to me, I said, what are you doing here, Gareth? And he said, well, I went to Rose Bruford's about 10 years before you did. I said, I didn't know that. So he said, what are you doing at the moment? And I said, well, actually, I'm just about to go next week to do a bit of filming on Lovejoy. So he said, oh, that's nice. Didn't think any more of it. And this was on a Sunday. On the Monday, my agent phoned me and said, Gareth Gwenlyn is sending you 5 scripts of a comedy series starring Dennis Waterman called On the Up, and it's his wife in it. Would you read them? And then you'll have to then come back and see Gareth next week at BBC. So I thought, oh my God, talk about being in the right place at the right time. You know, it's exactly what it was. And I read the scripts, went to see Gareth, and we had a little read through and everything. And then he said, look, I'd really like you to do it. Think you'll be absolutely right for it. But he said, I've got to clear it with Dennis. He's got the overall say. Anyway, the answer came back, yeah, Judy, yeah, that would be great, you know. And so that's what happened. Dennis approved of me, and we did the show, and it was great. We did 3 series of it, but it never really took off until after it had finished. People used to say, oh, I love that show. But at the time, it wasn't like a massive hit.
Mm-hmm.
And, unlike, Jeff's stuff, all his Perry and Croft's, they were big hits at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But this never read. I mean, it was a great cast with Joan Sims and wonderful Sam Kelly and the fabulous Jenna Russell, who's doing so brilliantly now. She's just fabulous singer. So it didn't really take off, but I loved it. I loved doing it, and she was such a bitchy character, which is always fabulous. And Dennis, I love Dennis. I mean, Dennis and I got on really well, and we had great fun. And he was great with all the crew. He knew everybody's name. He was sort of one of the lads. I liked his attitude with everybody. He was really nice and
I've always loved Dennis Waterman. I loved him. I mean, he was great in the Sweeney, but I loved him in Minder. He was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely fabulous.
And he just seems like a really, really great guy as well, Judy. Seems a really great guy.
Yeah, good fun.
Mm-hmm.
Good fun.
But I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. So, would you prefer theatre, TV, or film?
Well, let's say first love theatre,
mm-hmm.
because I was trained in it, and I like the atmosphere of a live audience. Comedy probably the best, because you if you hear a laugh, it's wonderful.
Oh yeah,
mind you, laugh, it's not so wonderful. But I mean, I love doing the television. I'd love to do more television, but as one's got older, it's become few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether I don't really fit into the category now. What happens to me is I'm not actually talking so much about television. I'm talking a bit more about commercials.
Mm-hmm.
I'm put up commercials nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
The brief is older woman. And I know full well when I do my self-tape, which I loathe doing, they're going to choose a sort of little old white-haired lady, and that's what happens. And Jeff and I look at each other, you're not going to get this. And I think, no, I'm not going to get it, but I'll show willing, I'll do me tape. But no, I would love to do more television. I really would. And, who knows, maybe I will, but we'll, wait and see. Mm-hmm. Same with film. I've done these films, but as I say, they're only, there's no great leading role in a film. I mean, that would have been the icing on the cake to do that.
Oh yeah.
In this business, you don't know what's around the corner, do you really?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, like I always said, I say never. And if I was sort of like someone casting a movie, I'd definitely cast you and Jeff, because I think he's a fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It's something
for us, my darling.
But but I mean, one day I would maybe like to do that. I mean, right now, I'm writing a book just now, and I'm writing a book, and I'm kind of nearly halfway through it just now. But I've wrote a couple of films, but a couple of short films, but one of them which I'm going to show you as well. But one thing I would love to do, and I'm sure I'll do this once I've done my book, I'm going to hopefully write a theatre play. That's something that I really want to do.
Oh, wow. Well, that would be great.
So once I'll see how the book thing goes, and then we'll take it from there.
Is the book fiction? Is the book fiction?
It's based on, a lot of the things in it are fictitious, but a lot of it is based on experiences from when I was younger. It's like I was in Germany as well. Once the wall came down, and obviously, and just things. I mean, a lot of unspectacular things. Just some memories from like when I was on holiday with my mum and dad years ago, and so forth. Which I never had a great time at school, unfortunately. But what I'm kind of doing is, from those experiences, it's kind of from my bad experiences at school to all the nice little memories and stuff. I'm going to put all those in the book, but obviously there's other things which there's a story to it as well, which a lot of it is made up sort of thing, but it's definitely got a story. But it's got like the main character whose name's Tommy, and then you've got like there's two other main characters. You've got the guardian angel, and then you've got the guy who's the world's richest man. Like they're in the book, so that's what I'm going to say. But it's
Oh,
going to
it
be
sounds,
epic.
best of luck with that. That sounds fabulous. I
It's
shall look
going
forward to it.
to. But oh yeah, once it's done, I mean, I'm going to give you a shout, and I'll send you a copy.
The thing about writing is to draw from your own experiences, isn't it? I mean, that's what I'm sure Jeff told you about Jimmy Perry and David Croft.
Yeah.
Their sitcoms, they were in there, they'd done a lot.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, what Jeff was telling me as well, like in the High, like, I mean, it's Jim, like, was it? I don't know if it was Jimmy, if it was Perry he was like a Spike in his day.
Yes, he was a redcoat, yes.
Yeah, he was a redcoat. And then you had your ballroom dancers, you had your Punch and Judy man, and they're kind of based on real characters, and it was so interesting being told that. It was, and I mean, I was at Butlins years ago when I was a little kid, and I absolutely loved Butlins. It was fantastic.
I never went to one, but I think I would have loved it. I would have loved it.
You know what I remember, Judy? I remember years ago, and this is what sticks out with Butlins. It's had used to, like, so if you want to get a bag of chips, the chips, I mean, they were little skinny chips, but they were bloody lovely. And just the vinegar and the salt, it was like the best chips for some reason at Butlins. You would just go for the chips, But the chips were lovely, absolutely lovely. And we used to take chips back to the chalet and have them, and it was great, later on at night. Fantastic. Great memories, Judy. Great memories. But so talking about Jeff, what's it like actually, like you have a married couple that are actors. I mean, it's got its pros and cons. It's got its, I mean, do you help each other with your lines or so forth?
Well, he does help me with my lines. I'll ask him and say, can you just hear my lines? But with Jeff, I don't know how he learns his line. He never asks me. And I think, how has he learned that? I never see him looking at his lines. He's phenomenal at learning lines. And he just seems to, I'm one of these people now, especially now I've got older, doing a play or learning anything, I like to really try and learn it before the first day of rehearsal. I mean, not as a performance, but to have a good knowledge of those lines. Because I get scared now that it's going to take me a long time to learn them. I am good at learning, but Jeff never does that because he likes to learn with the moves. Once he's given his moves, he'll learn with the script in his hand, and by the end of the day, he'll know that scene that he's done. So we're very different at the way we learn, but which is it's strange, really. But everybody has their own sort of way of learning the scripts, I think.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, you were talking back in the day when you had to learn all those lines for 2 plays and stuff like that, and was it 2 weeks or something? That's a lot.
I think if you're younger, it's a lot easier, I think. But I thought about Jeff. I said, how did he learn Mr. Laurel? And he said it only took him about 10 days to learn that.
10 days?
That's what he said. I mean, I'm not sure I believe him, but fantastic. But I spent most of the summer learning this show I'm about to do, lines for that. And during the summer months, I would sort of sit there and do it every day, going over and over. And that, I found it quite hard, really.
Yeah.
But there, I hope it's there.
But it's like, I mean, obviously a few years ago when I went to see Jeff and this is my friend Mr. Laurel, I mean, the lines he had in that, and it was like over an hour. That's absolutely staggering, to learn all of that in 10 days.
My one of over an hour, about the same. Yeah.
That's
It's
crazy. But with your show, can you give us any light on what your show
yeah,
is?
it's called Women of Pensionable Rage.
Mhm.
Great title. I did it for the Hastings Arts Festival in October, one performance only. So I haven't really bedded it in or, made it my own yet. It went incredibly well. And I was so nervous. I was incredibly nervous, but I got through it. This girl wrote it. I'd actually worked with her. She was on the crew actually of a tour that Jeff and I did together about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer than that, probably 5 years ago. And she actually wrote a short play called Blast from the Past, which she wanted me to be in. And I ended up doing that at the Camden Fringe, but it had other people in it. But this character, Julie Tate, she's a Blackpool landlady, and like leopard skin, tattoos, jewelry, totally different from somebody like me. But I thought, oh dear, can I do this? Anyway, I did it, and it was fabulous fun. And she's written these monologues during the lockdown. She rang me up. She said, I've written these monologues, and one of them is the same character, Julie Tate. And then there's another character who is a 1980s sitcom star who's now ended up doing pantomime in Fleetwood. And has got big ideas. She's very much a diva. There's this Blackpool landlady, and then there's a woman who's a widow. She's widowed, and she had been mentally abused by her husband when he was alive, and she's now broken out, and she's free. And there's a nice little twist at the end, which I won't go into. So there's these 3 characters, and she's put them all in this evening called Women of Pensionable Rage. And it's like they're all standing up and speaking out. But it's very well written, and some of it is very funny, very funny.
Brilliant.
And so I'm doing it at the end of January. Locally, there's a wonderful theatre near where I live called the Chiswick Playhouse. And it used to be called the Tabard, but it changed names recently. And I've got the best part of a week there at the end of January. So that's going to be good fun. And I actually change into the characters on stage. So you don't see me go off and come back as a different character. You see me in a sort of wig cap, putting a wig on, putting necklace on, putting earrings on, putting a jacket on, and then becoming the character. So it's been a good challenge, really, and I'm just hoping that it'll go well. I hope so.
Oh, I'm sure it will go well. I'm sure it will. So what's the duration of the play? Is it about an hour and a half?
Just over an hour, yeah. Just about the same. Jeff's is about an hour. This may be about an hour and 5, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I tell you what, I hope you're going to be taking it to the Edinburgh Fringe.
Amazing. It would be amazing if I could. I don't know. I don't know I don't know what happened to the Fringe this last summer. There was a lot online, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think there was just a lot of, don't get me wrong, there were some shows that were still going on, but obviously it wasn't so big. Just a lot of people were still kind of understandably not wanting to put it on just in case, and I think the organisers were the same. I think they just wanted to minimise it just to see how that would go. But I think maybe next year, hopefully, from what I've been hearing, they're going to make it bigger again. So, I'll be back.
I just so loved being there with Jeff. It was such fun, and the atmosphere was so wonderful. I loved it.
Did you get to tour the city, Judy?
Yeah, we did. Definitely. It's fabulous.
It's a beautiful city, isn't it?
Stunning. Really lovely. Really.
Well, do you want
expensive during the festival?
Oh yeah, that's the thing. But it's so good. I mean, one of the things I enjoy doing is walking up the Royal Mile, and you got all these different people doing their different shows, handing out their flyers and stuff, and you're like, that looks a good show, you know. I mean, I've got obviously friends that have been in stuff, and I'd go and see them. I actually enjoyed doing the festival as well for many years. Been a while since I've done the theatres, like theatre thing in Edinburgh Festival, but hopefully soon. I'd like to get back to getting back on the stage, because it's, as you know, it's something special. You know, it's great to just do a good show, and you know, I miss it actually. I do miss doing theatre, but hopefully soon. But listen, Judy, honestly, thanks so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So see you.
Honestly, it's great to see you as well. Honestly, you still look fantastic.
Thank you.
And you know, it's just great talking to you and Jeff. It's, as I said, you know, it's normally when you try and get people on a show, and a lot, I don't know, a lot of folk, I wouldn't say look down on it, but because it being like it's my first thing that I've kind of done something like this, I'm really enjoying it. But it's like, you know, to get lovely people like you and Jeff on, and people that you could just listen to all day. Honestly, I could listen to you and Jeff all day. I really could.
Oh, brilliant.
But listen, oh yeah, absolutely. But honestly, come and bring your show at the festival, because I'll be there. I'll be coming to see you. Well, we'll be coming to see you.
I'll keep you posted on that.
Brilliant, Judy. But listen, Jude, thanks so much for coming on. Honestly, I was just saying to Jeff, I was a little bit hungover this morning because I was at the Christmas market last night. But honestly, from having kind of no, but kind of having like a bit of a sore head this morning, and thinking, feeling a little bit meh, you know. You have cheered me up big time, honestly. I feel
good.
Feel good.
Are you better? Are you feeling better?
Oh yeah, I feel great now.
Hair of the dog.
No way. A coffee will, I'm maybe make another coffee after this, and that'll be me. But
fry up.
Totally, Judy. But listen, Judy, thanks so much for coming on, honestly, and all your time to come on and tell me all your fascinating stories from years ago and all the people that you've worked with. It's been enlightening. It's been insightful. It's just been fantastic.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
No problem. And hopefully I can see you and Jeff real soon as well, whether I'm down in London or where you's up here. Yeah. Just give me a shout when you're up here, okay?
Well, we keep in touch.
Absolutely. Okay, Jude, listen, you have a fantastic Sunday, okay, my darling?
Thank you. Lots of love. Take care.
Bye for now.
Take care.
Bye, Jude.
Please, I leave the show. Woo, bye.
Bye.